Oh, no, we are live. Very excited to be back with you tonight, everybody. It's been 6 months since our last SydCSS. We've obviously, we had big plans for tonight in terms of bringing it back with like a hybrid event where we were going to have the best of both worlds in terms of our web stream combined with a live event, which I think we've all really missed, like spending time with each other. But we're sticking with it tonight with lockdowns in place in Sydney, and we've got some really exciting talks for you tonight. Before we begin, I'd just like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today. We would like to pay our respects to elders past and present. So as always, with the online version, really want to invite you to introduce yourselves on the YouTube comments. Tell us where you are. Tell us what you're doing tonight. Also, as we're doing the talks, like be sure to give the speakers a lot of fuss, a lot of encouragement for the talks that they're doing. Super excited that tonight's a first-time speaker night. It's one of our favourite nights that we run with SydCSS, and you've got like a real treat in store for the 4 talks that we're going to see. So tonight we've got. What's that, sorry?
Should we introduce ourselves as well, since we're asking everyone to introduce themselves?
I guess so, yes. Fiona, what's your name, please, and where are you?
You do it. That's the part you usually do.
Well, okay, so I'm David. I'm one of the co-hosts for SydCSS, and I'm with Fiona, obviously. We've got a few other people behind the scenes as well as our co-organisers. We've got Verity, Gemma, and Mike. We're all Sydney-based, and we're all currently in lockdown as well, along with just about everybody else in Sydney right now, or in Australia, except for Victoria. The talks that we've got tonight, all 5-minute lightning talks, all by first-time speakers. So first up, we're going to have Peter Lynch, who's going to be talking about it being dangerous to go alone. Try this exit intent modal. Now, he's got a lot of Zelda content in there as well. I know Gemma, one of our co-organisers, is super excited about that. We've got Throttle and Debouncing in CSS with Rosie. This is going to give you some great tips on how to squeeze a little bit of extra performance out of the web apps that you're producing. Then we've got Mike, who's going to be giving us some insights into some of his magician's tricks, some of the secrets that he's got in terms of how to produce really kind of stylish and like imaginative buttons. And then we've got Alvaro, who's over in Spain, presenting from Spain tonight. And this one's a bit of a treat, where if you were here last year, you would have seen Louise give a presentation on CSS art with I think it was the girl with the pearl earring that she produced. This is a little bit of a follow-up to that, where Alvaro is going to show you how you can give those types of CSS, those types of projects a little bit of an accessibility touch. So if you're on Twitter tonight, or if you're on Instagram, I want to encourage you to use hashtag. We especially love it when people post pictures of themselves watching us on their big screen TVs or wherever they might be tonight watching. That's always an extra treat for us.
Yeah. Can I also say, if anyone has a fun face mask they're wearing, because we're locked down, yeah, post a picture as well, and show us what you're doing, and embrace it. That's what I say. Embrace it.
Embrace, but don't embrace each other. Do not embrace each other. You're doing right now.
Yeah, don't do that.
Also want to encourage you, like we've obviously had 6 months away, and we're very much looking to bring SydCSS back just like it was before. But in order to do that, we really need people like yourself to present for us. So I want to invite you, if you're interested in presenting at SydCSS, reach out to us on I think Twitter is probably the best way to reach us, or you can also reach us through the Meetup as well, the Meetup page that we've got. I'm going to invite.
So tonight we've got X15 who's sponsoring our event, sponsoring StreamYard, which is the platform we use to stream to YouTube. We were going to host the event at the venue. Unfortunately, because of COVID, we're not able to, but we're super keen to bring our event to their beautiful office when things are back to somewhat more normal. So I'm just going to invite James Wilson to join us from X15. Sorry, David. I'll keep you here. Hi, James.
Hey, Fiona. Hey, David. Thank you very much for the invite.
Yeah, no, thanks so much for all your support, for SydCSS as well. So please tell us a bit more about X15 and what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So hi everyone, I'm James. I work I'm part of the engineering team at X15 Ventures. I work alongside Rosie, who you'll be hearing from tonight. And I want just a quick introduction to what X15 or X15 Ventures is. We are the venture building and scaling arm of the Commonwealth Bank. We're deliberately very different from other VCs and sort of digital agencies insofar as while we have this public mission of launching ventures that surprise and delight the Commonwealth Bank's 15 million customers and the world in general, the more exciting reality of why X15 exists is our role is to build those ventures in a way that we learn how to build very rapidly, even within working in the heavily regulated fintech and finserv space. And that we do that in a way where everything we learn about how to develop within that space, satisfying all the regulatory requirements, but still being incredibly innovative and experimental, is we want to do that in a way that we can translate it directly into the bank as a core strength that the bank has to really further Commonwealth Bank in that regard. So it's a great challenge. We've got a pretty unique way of working. We're a very flat team across the engineering and design and technology space. We hire smart people that want to self-manage and self-govern. We deliberately strip away all the hierarchy that can otherwise get in the way. And so if that sounds like it's of interest to you, if you like working in JavaScript with Node.js, with React, with Expo, with Hasura for GraphQL, Postgres, etc., or just want to dive into what it's like in a startup environment, please do reach out. You can check us out at x15ventures.com.au, and there you'll get to see the website that Rosie has done amazing work on just recently. Last thing from me is that we've also just launched what we call Accelerate, which is essentially our version of Shark Tank. It's where we open up to the public to pitch ideas to us for ventures, and the winner gets a $150,000 grant from us in the terms of a safe note. And I embarrassingly had to ask my colleagues, what in earth is a safe note? And I was sure it was some fintech terminology I should know, but it turns out it just stands for simple agreement for future equity. But it's a great way to ditch your corporate life and come and build a startup with our help and our backing. I'm super excited to see these talks tonight. I've had the pleasure of doing a lot of public speaking, but I can still remember what it was like first time getting up on stage. And I can assure you that getting started is the biggest barrier between where you're at now and becoming a confident public speaker and communicator. So congratulations on getting to this point, and looking forward to seeing these lightning talks. Thanks, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you so much, James. And we're really looking forward to having hopefully a next SydCSS at your beautiful office too. Yep,
absolutely. We got to make use of our space as soon as we can.
Absolutely. Awesome. Thank you, James. Cool. All right. I think that's all the intro bits done, right?
That is all the intro bits done. It's time for the talks, folks.
Yeah, it is. So first up, we have Peter. Hi, Peter.
Hey.
How you doing?
Hey, guys. Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Living the freedom life down here in Melbourne.
Don't tell us how.
Can we boot him up? Is it too late to boot him up?
Well, I actually moved when we went into lockdown. I moved from Sydney to Melbourne, and I thought, just my luck. And now I'm feeling some pleasure.
Awesome.
So you're going out for a drink after this, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, going to go to the park, go for a swim. Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, thanks. Thanks a lot. Cool. All right. Well, Dave, I'm going to just remove you from the screen. Peter, do you want to share your screen with me? And then we'll add it. While you're doing that, so just a quick introduction of Peter. He's a recent graduate from Coda Academy. And yeah, he's really, found his passion into coding and is very excited to be doing his first technical talk at SydCSS or at any meetups, really. Fun fact about Peter, he said that he can touch his nose with his tongue. Oh my God, as well. That is awesome. Oh yeah, that is pretty. Is that your party trick?
It's one of.
Oh no. Nice. All right. Next time, come back to SydCSS and do another talk. I'll ask you, what is your next party trick? So tonight, Peter will be giving us a talk about a different way to build modals. And yeah, so please put your hands together and add all the applause emojis in our comments for Peter.
All right. Thanks, Fiona, and thanks, David. Thanks a lot for organising tonight and giving us a chance to have a chance to speak in front of people, albeit digitally. So tonight, I'm going to talk. My talk is it's dangerous to go alone. Try this exit intent modal. With it's minimal CSS in the talk, but I've snuck some in to qualify. So you know what, modals are annoying. I'm sure everyone over at YouTube hates them. You know, you'll be on a website, you'll be trying to read an article, and you'll just get, you know, this, a little bit of this, bit of this, bit of that, and it just keeps coming at you, and it really destroys the flow of your reading. You know, it might leave a bit of taste in your mouth. It's probably got worse with GDRP, having to accept those cookies. I actually posted this modal I built in a Reddit thread, and I was told that it's a cancer and I should feel bad for making one. But then, you know, the person actually had a look at the modal and they sort of changed their mind, and that's what I want to talk about tonight is how do you make a modal or a pop-up interesting and sort of less intrusive. So I'll start at the end and I'll show you the modal I built. So I'm a big Zelda fan, and there's like a meme that it's sort of, you know, it's dangerous to go alone, take this. And you might see on the screen, there's a mouse and it moves up to the address bar, and that's called a mouse out event. I'll talk about that in a minute, but essentially the way it works is when someone goes to leave and goes up towards the address bar or to their tabs, the event will trigger. So the CSS, the only thing really to take note of here is the display none. So when you're on the page, we're going to hide the modal until the event's triggered. So how does that actually work? So confusingly, I've got 3 steps and they're ordered all jumbled up. But the first thing to look at is this mouse out event at number 1. So that's an event that you can add an event listener to. And essentially what it is it just listens for when the mouse leaves the document. So that's just leaving the browser. So if you can see my mouse on the screen, I think you can. If I go to the left, or if I go to the right or down or up and leave that window, that will trigger this event. So the first thing I do is then, to make it less intrusive, is I actually check to make sure that the user is exiting. So the 2-element property and the related target are essentially the same properties, and what they're doing is just checking that the mouse pointer has left the browser. So it's just, I use both because they're supported by different browsers. So that's hence why you've got both there. Then the next bit is the event.client Y. So we're just checking, you know, are they actually near the top of the page? So are they like 5 pixels away from the top? If they are, that's sort of where we'll trigger it. And then the last bit is I set a cookie, so the user will never see that again, or at least for 7 days. And that's one way I've tried to make it less intrusive. So the ways I've actually tried to make this modal less intrusive is, one, it only happens when they're going to exit. So it doesn't pop up when you're reading or, you know, going through things. It only pops up when you're leaving the browser and you're going to leave my page, and it's sort of my last chance to get at you. So this is on my developer portfolio, and it's the modal tries to get you to take my resume as you go. Hence the sort of, it's dangerous to go alone, take this. And I tried to sort of simulate that video game feel. So yeah, I guess the point of the talk is you can make modals fun and different. They don't have to be that sort of invasive, intrusive thing. I tried to make it fun and different by being creative and using something from a video game that I really enjoy. So it's another chance to sort of show people, a little bit about me just as they're leaving. That person might resonate with Zelda 2, and that might get them to click and, actually take my resume away with them. So that was the point of that. And that's the end of the talk. So thanks, everyone. And if you want to read more about it, I sort of did it right up on my webpage just down below there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Peter. And yeah, please everyone put your hands and applause emojis together for Peter, please. Yay! So how you feel after having done your talk?
Not too bad. I've done a lot of public speaking, but I was definitely nervous doing my first sort of tech public speaking.
Awesome. Well, you've done really well, and yeah, hopefully we'll have you back again in the future so that you can show us another party trick and do another talk for us.
Thanks, Fiona. I love that.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, Peter. Cool. All right. Next up. Oh, David, I forgot who's next. I forgot our order. You're muted.
Rosie.
Rosie.
With the throttle and debouncing in CSS. Hi, Rosie.
Hey.
Hello,
Hi.
Rosie. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. All right. Do you want to share your screen with us? Ooh, well, just while Rosie's doing that, just a quick introduction of Rosie. She is an engineer at X15. And yeah, built a beautiful website. I'm currently working on the products. Yeah, I guess fun fact about Rosie. She says she's currently really into Formula One at the moment. You're obsessed with Formula One at the moment. Are you watching any kind of shows? What got you into? What got you into it?
I was just watching the Netflix show, Drive to Survive. Yeah, and then ever since then, I've just been watching the actual race. So yeah.
Awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, okay. Well, I'm just going to share your screen. David, I'm just going to remove you. Yeah. So tonight, Rosie will be giving us a talk about debouncing and throttling in CSS. So can you please put your hands together for Rosie?
Thank you. So hi everyone, my name's Rosie and I'm an engineer at X15 Ventures. Tonight in this lightning talk, I'll be talking a little bit about debouncing and throttling. This is mainly just utilizing how we can handle event handlers in a performant way. The idea for this talk was basically I was just trying to figure out how to use performance better in the website that that's currently live on X15, and we created a few like gizmos in there using a bit of debouncing, a bit of throttling. So yeah, just thought I'd kind of cement my understanding of this. Yep. So tonight's talk agenda, we're going to define what debouncing is and how we can use it in everyday work, and we're going to take a look at what throttling is as well, and we're going to compare the differences between debouncing and throttling with some working examples, and then we're going to take a look at how we can use it in our code, and then we're going to summarize at the end. Yeah. So debouncing allows us to group sequential calls together. As you can see in the image, we have events at the top row of that screen capture. Just say they're like your keystroke events, and your tapping keys, and debouncing when you use the trailing option, basically it captures the last event in that series, and it would fire that off. So a really good example of using debouncing is in keystroke events, and in this example we have a password. So if we're typing in a password, we want it to kind of validate as we type. After we type and not as we type. Have you guys ever experienced when you typed a password in wrong and then it constantly shows you an error message with every keystroke event that you put in, every key that you type? Yeah. So this kind of like eliminates that kind of user experience. By using debouncing, we're avoiding unnecessary network calls by firing requests after a user has stopped typing. This is very advantageous when it comes to offloading network calls. Yeah, and as I was touched up about earlier, it improves the user feedback for people entering their passwords. So we want to check whether the password is correct or not after the user has typed it in. But I guess it really depends on your use case and how you define what a good user experience is, I guess. It's a practical example with color. So we're typing in the color and it changes the color to whatever color that we write in the text input. And this is just a short code snippet of how I did it. So I was using Lodash library, and you can basically call a debounce from the Lodash library to implement it. So we move on to throttling. So throttling guarantees the execution of the function regularly, at least at set milliseconds. So just think of like you're basically listening to the number of times a function is being executed over a period of time and you're going to do something with it. A really good example of throttling is using infinite scrolls. So we have scroll events and we want to basically listen to how far we are from the bottom of the screen. And then we want to load more elements towards the bottom of the screen as we scroll. So we are able to constantly check how far we are from the bottom and act accordingly. And we have the option to store ignored executions and execute them last. So in this example, we're basically listening for scroll events and checking how far we are from the bottom of the screen. And this is just a short code snippet of how you can use throttling using the Lodash library. This is a side-by-side comparison between debouncing and throttling. As you can see, the throttled color changes quicker compared to the debounce. In summary, debouncing bunches a series of sequential events to a function into a single call to that function. Throttling will delay the execution of a function and it will reduce the notifications of an event that fires at multiple times. So if you'd like a working example, I have it on GitHub. And if you like this slide, I'll put it up there as well. These are just the sources that I used. And yeah, thank you very much.
Yay, well done, Rosie. Please, everyone, put your hands together and lots of emoji, clap emojis in the comments for Rosie, please. Cool. Feel good and you're ready for future talk again in another meetup?
Possibly. Possibly.
Maybe a bit of a break. You did really, really well, and and that was such an interesting topic as well. And I think a lot of people would have gotten a lot of really useful information out of it. So well done. Cool.
You.
Now you can go and enjoy a drink. All right, thank you, Rosie.
Thank you.
Water is a good choice. All right. Okay. Next, I remember the order. Next, we have Luke. Hi, Luke. How are you doing?
Yeah, pretty good. Just locked down in Sydney along with everybody else by the sounds of it. Not doing too bad.
I hear you. Well, super excited about your talk tonight. Just a quick introduction of Luke. He is a designer, developer hybrid. He said he spends his day getting obsessed with the small details and doing questionable things in CSS. What are these questionable things that you do with CSS?
Well, you might see a few things that maybe you shouldn't be doing, but you can do.
Yeah. He is trying to make this world a better place for all with the team at Racely, which is a free fundraising platform for the ambitious organizations. Yeah, fun fact about Luke, he said that when you were young, you said that you were allowed 1 hour every day to be on the computer. Is that right?
No, 1 day, 1 hour every week.
Every week, okay.
Every week.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Look at me now, Mom.
Yeah.
Tied to my computer 4 hours of the day. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, yeah, super excited to hear your talk tonight. I'm just going to share your screen here. Tonight, Luke is going to show us some magic tricks on things you can do with buttons and how you can make them more interactive and more beautiful. So can you please put your hands together for Luke?
Thanks, Fiona. Yeah, so hey there. I mean, as Fiona said, my name's Luke, not Mike. Sorry, David, just to clear. My pronouns are he, him. I'm head up design at Raisley, but I'm also diving in the code. And as I said in my bio, like CSS is my love language. And yeah, I work over at Raisley. We're a fundraising platform. It's awesome. Check it out. And so my talk is going to be on, as Fiona said, on buttons. The kind of things that we can be doing with them, and also maybe some things that we can do, but maybe shouldn't do. And so firstly, let's look at the current state of buttons. What do things look like on the web? They are an important part of like every design system. You can see them. I can see them right now on YouTube, on StreamYard, and everything. They're used everywhere to ask the user to complete certain actions and just to kind of guide users through the interface and what actions are required of them. So they're very important things. Here is a collection of some of the most popular websites out there. This is all their buttons. As you can tell, like kind of boring. They're all kind of looking vaguely the same, all use this like sans serif font. Some have slightly more rounded corners than others, but all in all, there's much of the sameness. There's nothing that's going to leave you remembering that interaction, and that's something that we kind of want to focus on here. Is how can we provide the people using our website with something that they're going to remember, and also they have hella messy DOM. This is stuff from like YouTube and Twitter and stuff, all just for that one button. That's right. These things, which has a color and text, this is the DOM that's needed to provide them. Obviously, I'm sure they have their reasons, but do we really need like 5, 6, 7 elements just for one? I say no. Let's spice it up. What we're going to do is we're going to take one element, not those 5. We're going to take one element. We're going to add a bunch of CSS, and hopefully we're going to end up with something that's a bit more impressive, leaves a bit more of an impression. And we can go from looking like this, sure, it's a button that hovers slightly darker, sure, to something that looks like this. It's like way crazy and like already has like such a bigger impact on our users. How are we going to do that? A bunch of this, like a big base of this, relies on pseudo elements. Pseudo elements are states or elements that act on the element itself. So you might have seen something like a pseudo state, for example, like a hover state or a focus state, or you might have used like first line, which is like another pseudo element. But this, we're going to rely on the before and after elements. Believe it or not, the before element appears in line before the content, and the after element appears in line after the content. And this is kind of like just a very rough outline of the basis of a lot of the stuff of where I start out with. We have a button which has like position relative set. We need that in order to be able to position the after elements, the before and after elements absolute to the parent. And then we clip everything with this overflow hidden. Also note that you need, if you're using these pseudo elements, you need to have a content, otherwise they're not going to display at all. Just a little little thing there. Disclaimer, not all of the things I'm about to show you are production ready. It's just me jumping in my code bench, having a bit of fun. The focus here is on the creativity as well. But it's all kind of coming from those constraints of having one element and all we have is CSS. The idea being that if we end up with something that can be used, then someone should just be able to take the CSS without having to add any extra DOM or without having to add any JavaScript and to achieve what we set out to achieve. And so the first example I'm going to show you is something that I put together. This Wavy Button. This is definitely production ready. We actually use a version of this on Razely.com. As part of our Razely brand, we have this big wave element, this intersecting waves and gradients and stuff. And so when I was like building out the site, I wanted to kind of take that brand element and put it into various different parts of the site. So we've got waves going here, there, and everywhere. And then on the button, you get something that looks like this. Rather than just it changing color, when you hover over, you get this effect where the background fills up. It's not as obvious with this, but if we do an outline button like this, you see here that those waves like rise up as though we're like almost like going underwater in a way. And how is it that we're achieving that? Again, this is just one element and a bunch of CSS. If I just go into this on my code pen, I'm just going to set this debug variable to be true. And this should give us like a better understanding of what's going on. And here, if we look at the code snippet on the right-hand side, then we have, you see we've got those position relative, overflow hidden, and all that stuff. The before and after elements are there. This is obscured like a bunch of the code. So if you want to check it out, you can check this out afterwards. I'll share a link. But the things to pay attention to here are the sizing. So we're using these percentages to make it really big. So it's bigger than the element that it's in. And then we're also then moving, obscuring those. So we're moving them down underneath so they appear outside of the button. And because we have overflow hidden, they don't appear. However, then on hover, what we're doing is we're actually, on hover, we're moving these elements up so that they are revealed. So you can see here, as they move up, they overlap and they intersect and they rotate the opposite ways. And that gives this illusion of like a wave rising up. That's one. Again, as I said, definitely prod ready. We're doing it. This one, throwing shapes. This one, production ready. Not too sure, probably not, but looks like a normal everyday button, sure. And we hover it, we get the shape that appears and grows up. Oh yeah, okay, it was a hexagon, right? Now I hover, oh my gosh, it's a different shape. I hover again, I'm just gonna do it until we see a bunch. You see like triangles coming up there, chevrons, squares, all this kind of stuff. How is it that we're creating this like random effect without any JavaScript? So the magic where that happens, I will just turn this onto true again. What is actually happening is we have these, this is SCSS syntax. And again, like a bunch of this is obscured, so go check out the pen afterwards. But I basically have this CSS map, which is defines a bunch of clip paths, which I got from this really great site by a guy called Bennett Feely. Really awesome, just has basically a bunch of clip paths in CSS that define different shapes. Then what we're doing is we're looping through those shapes and we're creating an animation that is that reflects like all those different shapes and it's basically just cycling through them. I've slowed it down here in the example, but in real life without the debug, it's going super quick, super quick. And then what we're doing is we're hiding those that's set on the before element and we're hiding those with opacity 0. And then here is where that animation is happening. We're cycling through and we're doing that infinitely. So it just continues on and on. And then what happens with the magical like random shape is that when we hover or when we focus, what we're getting is we're actually applying this animation play state pause to the element. And what we're going to do is we're going to pause the animation on that specific shape. So that's when you get like it's cycling through. And then if I hover on there, it's going to pause on that one shape. And then all we're doing is we're performing like a transform to scale up again, just to make it really big and obscure that button. Again, I'm not sure whether this is production ready. Having a bunch of buttons with a bunch of infinite animations running probably isn't the best idea, but maybe in the future when everything is just like running on M1s maybe. And then the last one I'm going to take you through is this one, definitely not production ready. This was just more of an exercise. This was, you may have seen like in Google's material, their brand, they have this ripple effect where when you hover over a button or when you click on a button, it initiates this position sensitive circle, the ripple, which kind of where you click is where that appears. And so what I managed to do is to get something that very much resembles that ripple effect, where if I hover in from the left-hand side, it appears, hover in from the right, hover in from the center, or on this underline, we get, again, the same one. If I hover over here, it comes in from the middle. If I hover over here, it comes in from the right, from the left. Now, no JavaScript, and as I say, the caveat, definitely not a good thing to do in practice, but let me just show you what's going on. Is it that to be true? It's similar in some ways to the previous example where we had that animation running in the background. And essentially what we have is these before and after elements that are racing along the elements back and forwards. Again, I slowed it down heaps here, but they're racing along and they are acting as our kind of target detection. And so the way that we manage that is on the button itself, what we're doing is we're adding pointer events none, which basically removes the hover capabilities of the element. So we can no longer hover that. But then what that allows us to do is even if we set pointer events none on the parent, on the children, we can actually set pointer events all. And what that means is when I'm hovering the button, you can see here, when I'm hovering the button, I'm not over the pseudo elements, nothing's happening. But as soon as those pseudo elements come under my mouse, they then activate that hover state, which means that then in our hover and focus, we can then define some styles to say, hey, again, we're going to pause that animation to make sure that it's where we hovered it at. And then we're going to boost up to that size and fade it in so that we can get these crazy looking things. Yeah, as I say, if this was playing in full time, it would be hectic because it's just like racing across the screen. But yeah, just a bit of fun. And turns out you can do it. That's pretty much it from me. I have this collection up on CodePen if you want to go check it out, with a bunch of other ones that I've done. I won't go through these, but for example, we've got a skateboard that when you click, it like flips around. And then if I click again, the graphic changes and so on and so forth. And that's using kind of like a mixture of the techniques that we talked about. And it uses Transform 3D in CSS, which is awesome. We've also got these like 3D pills where we're like creating this translucent effect with backdrop filter, which is pretty cool. And then also this one which uses like CSS mask to reveal things, and also it has an inline SVG filter to kind of create this distorted effect. But also it has a button template as well. I've created this template so that basically anybody can go in, fork it, then have a go. And I'd love to see people jumping in and having a crack. And then yeah, share them with me, find me on Twitter and link me to your code, and I'd love to see it. Yeah, that's me.
Awesome work, Lou. Oh, we're getting so many comments in YouTube about your talk. I think everyone is like mind-blown emojis and saying things like, we're going to make more fancy buttons tomorrow and there'll be new PRs for all the buttons. So yeah.
Excellent. Love to see
You've inspired all the fancy buttons that we're going to see on the web. But remember, people, be responsible with using those fancy effects, as Luke said. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much, Luke. If you can maybe tweet out your CodePen link, I'm sure people would love to see it. So thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Sure. Thanks, guys.
All right. Almost there. We've got one more talk. Just going to add Alvaro to here. Hi, Alvaro. How are you?
Hi, I'm fine. How are you doing?
Good. Yeah. Well, you're dialing in all the way from Spain. Yep. And it's only, is it 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. over where you are now?
11 a.m. now.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Well, we're super excited to have you. So Alvaro, do you want to just share your screen with us? And while you're doing that, just a quick introduction about Alvaro. So Alvaro is a Spanish software engineer based in Austin, Texas, but you're just traveling at the moment in Spain. Currently, he works at Visa as a UI manager. And when he's not exploring different web technologies, he enjoys reading and spending time with family and kids. Fun fact about Alvaro is that you used to be a cartoonist for the Daily Texan. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. That's the local newspaper in Austin. It's the university newspaper.
Very cool. Do you still do much illustrations and stuff like that?
I do things with CSS now.
Awesome. Creating art with CSS. I love that. Well, tonight we are going to hear from Alvaro on tips to create more accessible CSS art. So can you please put your hands together for Alvaro?
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity of talking. Hi, my name is Alvaro Montoro, and I'm going to talk about how to create accessible CSS art. CSS art has been available for a long time. You probably have seen a lot of these examples. Actually, the girl with the pearl earring was a great presentation. And you have seen it because it has been there for a long time, basically since CSS started. And it's an interesting coding challenge, and it's also a great way of learning and practicing CSS. But it has a big problem, and it's that by default, it is not accessible. So in this presentation, I'm going to show like 4 or 5 techniques on how to make that CSS a little bit more accessible for everybody. And let's start with the first tip, that is identifying your CSS art as an image. You can do that by adding a role to the container of your CSS art. In this case, the role would be image. And again, this wouldn't affect how the CSS art is displayed. But if a user has a screen reader, the screen reader will announce your CSS art as an image, which is something important. But that's only step 1. It's important that it announces it as an image, but we need to provide an alternative text the same way that an image would do. So you can do that using ARIA label, but I'm not a big fan of that. I prefer to do ARIA label by. And it's because ARIA label, if for any reason the CSS is not loaded, then nothing will be displayed. But if you use ARIA label along with a technique to hide the content accessibly, then if the CSS doesn't load, the description or the alternative text will be displayed in the same way that it's displayed when an image doesn't load. You can use any accessible technique to hide the text. I use this one that is from the A11Y project, but you can use any other. And yes, after identifying the picture as an image and adding an alternative text, another thing that we need to take into account is being mindful of the animations. So sometimes those images have animations. Like, for example, if you draw a dog, it waves its tail, or sometimes if it's a person, it may blink, things like that. So we need to take into account that not everybody wants to have animation on their web pages, and CSS provides a way of stopping animation or changing it, and that's the prefers reduce motion media query. And by doing that, you can either remove or change the animation. In the example that I'm showing here, it would remove the animation, but it's important to note that you don't have to remove the animation. Like, not all animations are created equal, and not all animations will have problems or cause problems to people with disabilities, or people with Sorry. So take that into account. It's not the same as sharp movement that, for example, just a fade in, things like that. So just be mindful. You don't need to remove them, but you need to be careful on how you use them. And now another important part, and this part is interesting because I'm going to say two contradictory things. That is, you need to decide if you want your CSS art to be responsive or not. So if you decide not to make it responsive, then it's not going to be scalable. But the good thing is, by using absolute units like a pixel or centimeters or things like that, normally pixel, is going to be pixel perfect. It's going to look sharp. It's going to look good. It's not going to be responsive, but it's going to look better. And the good thing about that is that you can use any CSS property. On the other side, if you want to make your CSS art responsive, you will use relative units like, vmin, vmax, or percentages. And you need to be careful because some browsers may not display it correctly at certain resolutions. And you may need to avoid some CSS properties like box shadow or certain clip paths. Like, for example, box shadow doesn't take percentages. So when you want to make your CSS art responsive, box shadow will create problems because it will not look the same when the image is big or when it's small. Also, clip paths. I love clip paths. And I've been waiting for a long time for path function to be available. And now that it is, I'm a bit disappointed that it's not responsive. It doesn't take percentages. It only uses pixels. So it's not really helpful for responsiveness. Another CSS property that is interesting is the aspect ratio that will allow you to set like the aspect ratio of your image. So it will scale better. Let me go. And finally, another tip is using Semantic HTML. Do not use div for everything. Feel free to use some semantic HTML elements like article or figure, fig caption. And here there may be a little bit of debate. I think that article is a good one because it's a self-contained document. That is what your CSS is going to be. But you could argue that figure is better because figure represents, it could be an image, and it would make it easier to add the alternative text with the fig caption. And those are the tips. Sorry, I think I went too fast, but here's some links and credits for the images at the beginning. I was showing different things, and I added a link to a CodePen demo. That is the one I used, and you can see here how I use different tips like using the role image, area label by. So if for any reason the CSS doesn't load, it will show this alternative text. I don't know if you can see that because I'm only showing the PowerPoint. But that's my presentation. Thank you very much.
Awesome, Alvaro. Thank you so much for that talk. And yeah, we're a huge fan of any talks that talks about accessibility and CSS, our favorite topic. So yeah, so thank you so much. If you can maybe just add a comment in the YouTube channel, just with the URL to the resources you've mentioned, that would be great. We'll also try to collect all the speakers' presentations afterwards as well and share that online. Cool. Well, yeah, everyone, please put your hands together again for Alvaro. All right. David, you may come back.
Thank you, and I'll share our thing. Sorry, I was a little bit too keen on bringing our slide deck back. I'm sorry about that, Alvaro. Yeah, so it's pretty much the end of the night. There's a couple of things that we'll just touch on as a little bit of housekeeping and stuff just to round ourselves out. But yeah, that's coming to the end of tonight's CSS. But it's been fantastic seeing all those lightning talks from those first-time speakers. First of all, I want to apologise to Luke. I don't know what was going through my head there. I was so focused on how I pronounce Alvaro's name that I completely missed Luke's name. But in my defense, I do find that probably 86% of people who are designer-developer hybrids are actually called Mike. So we have to also keep that in consideration as well. It's true, though. It's true. Just ask around. Ask around. Now, a bit of a tradition that we have with the first-time speaker nights is as well. We like to give awards to people for their performances tonight. So if you'll just bear with me for 2 seconds, we'll just go through those awards. So most sophisticated background award, which I think we can all agree, was definitely Alvaro. I don't know if you noticed in the background, like it was a talk on CSS art, but in the background there was art on the wall. It's that attention to detail that you've really got to appreciate. Next award is contributions to buttons. I mean, there's only one winner for this one, right? It is Mike. It's Mike. He did an absolutely fantastic job of that one. Best supporting text box. I mean, anybody who's going to throttle a text box is going to pick this one up. So that's Rosie. Fantastic job, Rosie, on the throttling of the text boxes. And then finally, best use of a body. In this case, definitely Peter with that tongue touching the nose trick. That was absolute special treat for everybody, I think. Also want to do a quick whip round of people who have been on Twitter tonight. That's our very own Verity. That dog does not look happy, Verity. I just want to say, I don't know if you noticed that when you were taking that picture. Also got Philip down in Wollongong. Yeah, popcorn. You know what? I was going to go and get some popcorn before this as well, and I totally forgot. We've got Theo there having a nice little bevy there watching on their laptop. Fantastic. And then I don't know if some of you are aware, there's a bit of a cocktail battle going on between Simon right there, looking very sophisticated. Nice lighting setup as well, Simon. Compliments.
Yeah, very.
And then Steve.
Lighting.
Yeah, I bet his drink is better than Simon's though, but Simon's photography is better than Steve. I think that's what's happening right there. Yeah, Simon does put us all to shame, Ben. So yeah, the next CSS, see you all in 6 months. Is that how it's going to work now? What are we going to do?
Hopefully not. Hopefully not. I mean, we don't really know when the next CSS will be at. We are really hoping to have our next event to be a hybrid event, so that we'll do in person as well as online. So please keep an eye out for any announcements. If again, like we said before, if anyone is keen to give a talk, whether it's a lightning talk or a 20 minutes kind of 10, 15, 20 minutes kind of talk, we'd love to hear from you. I'm more than happy to help you work on a topic as well, if you kind of need help there. So please do reach out to us on meetup.com or on Twitter as well. But yeah, thank you so much to everyone for tuning in. I think we had around 67, 68 people watching the live stream at one point, which I think is a pretty good turnout for an online event. So yeah, so thank you so much to everyone who tuned in, who came in and supported our first time speakers, because it really does make a huge difference. And for all the wonderful comments and all the applause emojis that you share with us in the YouTube comments. So thank you so much. But yeah, in the meantime, everyone stay safe. Yeah, we look forward to our next event with you all again soon. Awesome. All right. Bye.